o'clock. I now call the October 1st regular meeting of the City Council to order. The invocation will be given tonight by Reverend Kevin Cravens Cook. Is he in the house? All right. Well, Mr. Hermes, you told me to call on you if this
I was
ever
going to
happens.
volunteer Mr. Howard out. I know he's out there in the hall.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Great minds,
Yeah,
Kevin.
yeah, if he's there, that would be wonderful. Good idea. Thank
sure.
you so much, Bill. I appreciate it.
Let's pray then. Almighty God, we just thank you, dear Lord, for the opportunity to gather here to do the business of the city. And I pray, dear Lord, for each one of these councilmen and our mayor and the public, all our public service employees. And Father, I just pray this, may their decisions be one that'll be beneficial to our city and be able to help us to serve the people and be able to serve you more. Father, I just thank you, dear Lord, for the opportunities we have in this country to be a service to you. And dear Lord, it's good to know that it's one in God we trust. So Father, just go with us now, and we'll just always give thy name to praise and glory for all things. First, all through Jesus Christ, Lord, I pray these things. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ms. Hoffman, if you could take roll, please. Mr. Burke,
Here.
Mr. Cahill,
Present.
Ms. Kyle, Mr. Skidmore,
Here.
Ms. Sudkamp, Ms. Cahill, Mr. Meyer,
Present.
Ms. Skidmore, Ms. Pitts, Mr. Nicely, Ms. Reckers, Okay. You've all received a copy of the minutes from the September 3rd, 2019 regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Mrs. Kyle, Mrs. Reckers, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. You've also received a copy of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any additions to be made at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented. Mrs. Kyle and Mrs. Sedkamp, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. Okay, tonight we have the pleasure of introducing James and Amber from Perfetti Van Mail. They have a presentation for us. Thank you guys for being here this evening.
So good evening to everybody. Thank you for having us here. We're part of Perfetti Van Mail. We're here in Erlanger and have been for over 30 years now making Airheads and Mentos. As you can see, our mission in life is to make life sweeter, and that's what we do. And we want to start out by saying thank you, first of all, for the partnership with the city. It has been a ridiculous growth story over the last 3 years, first with the Van Mels, then after the acquisition, and it continues. And the partnership with the city has been fantastic. We just opened a new central distribution center here, and we're very excited about continuing that partnership going forward. Special call out, and we had the Perfetti family here last year, right? The investment that they have made and the trust that they've put both in the North America business and in the city of Erlanger has been tremendous, right? And they've spoken with their pocketbook, and we truly, truly appreciate that. And really thanks to the 400 people at Perfetti that make life sweeter every day for us and that make us continue to grow in the community. So we're going to go really quickly today about a little bit about who we are. I'm going to give you a little bit of business overview about what Perfetti is and what we're up to, and Amber is going to talk to you a little bit about what specifically supply chain is, which is what we do.
So, Amber Hogan, I've grown up in the Cincinnati area in various suburbs. I graduated from the University of Cincinnati with a Bachelor in Science and Communications. I'm married and I live in the northern Kentucky area with my husband and 2 stepchildren. I actually started my career at Sara Lee U.S. Foods, auditing freight invoices at the Old Hillshire Farm and Cons plant. And that's really where my love of trucking and logistics kind of developed. When Sara Lee moved on to Chicago and left me behind, I moved into the third-party logistics provider space, most notably Transfreight. They were responsible for building out Toyota's North American supply chain. So I spent a lot of time there learning cross-docking, logistics design, warehouse design, and then developing analytics to support that. They were bought out by Penske, spent some time there, realized that my career wasn't going to go where I wanted to go with Penske, and that's where I've now found my home with Perfetti Van Mel, running their customer solutions and logistics and transportation departments.
And my name is James Biro. I come from a little bit further south, so I was born and raised in Mexico City. I tell everybody jokingly that I'm I'm your average Irish, American, Hungarian, Mexican kid who landed up in Cincinnati, right? There's a bunch of us around if you look. Studied there, met my wife and got married there, then moved to Michigan for a 2-year assignment, and we've been in the States for 17 years now. Both of our children were born in Michigan, had my master's in MSU, and then moved to Evansville, Indiana, down the river, all the way on the southwest part of Indiana, and had the pleasure of coming to Cincy 8 years ago now with Kellogg's. Kellogg's offered us to move twice, and we said we love the region and we're going nowhere. And we took a job with Perfetti, and I've been there for the last 3.5 years. Of note are 2 things. This has been the place where I've been able to do more outreach and be more in the community, and I love both on this side and the other of the river being there. The other part is you see the picture of a dog there, and every time that I make a presentation like this, my daughter was seeing my presentation slide once, and she said, well, and where's Kobe in this story? So if you ever meet my daughter, please tell her that yes, Kobe was here and he was part of the introduction. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Perfetti Van Mel. And you know us, if we say Perfetti Van Mel, okay, right? 2 huge companies merged together, but you know us for Mentos and Airheads, which are our iconic brands. There you go. If you, on the picture, if you put it on the lower left, if you put the cursor on the lower left-hand corner of the picture, there you go. There you go.
Want to play?
Bumper heads here?
Why not? Come on.
Clearly a very fun, and if you do the same for that one, because we have to tell you about both brands. It's that one.
You guys chat. Be nice, Dad.
That's what a man is, Gary. He's looking at you right in the face. You need to say something. Just open your mouth and talk. Just tell him you built something out of wood, with your hands, like a man.
I carved that wooden bowl myself.
I put up a shelf once.
Small talking with Mentos Pure Fresh Gum. Now with a burst of freshness.
Who says no to Mentos gum?
And apart from the blatant opportunity to do some branding, that's the part that I love about working in candy. It truly is an industry that brings great memories, makes people smile, and truly reflects our mission of making life sweeter. And we truly believe that that means sweeter for our consumers, obviously, for the community that we live in, right? And we love to grow and flourish in the community that we're in, for the planet, and we are constantly putting projects together to be more environmentally responsible, and obviously sweeter for the 400 people whose families depend on us, right? And making sure that we're a great place to work. So, brief background, it starts in the 1900s. A gentleman called Isaac Van Mel starts a candy company in a little corner in a little town called Breskens in the Netherlands. Grows to build Mentos. At one point, one of his grandsons, and I don't know in the community who would know him or not, but Marius Van Mel came 35 years ago to the United States. Story has it his dad sent him and a container of Mentos and said, go sell it. He started in Boston, moved to Erlanger, and we don't know why, and started the Erlanger plant here. Started with Mentos and then went on to Airheads. At the same time, a gentleman in Barcelona called Enric Prat starts one of the largest lollipop companies in the world, Chupa Chup. Made some great taffy. Moms hated that kids got their hands sticky. So he said, we should sell this on a stick. And his claim to fame is that he was the first one to ever make a lollipop. We haven't been able to confirm that. At the same time, the Perfettis in Italy in 1946 started a gum company and hit very hard on the Brooklyn gum marketing right after the Second World War. The GIs were seen as heroes. It was a perfect branding, and built a gum emporium. In 2001, they acquire Van Mel. In 2006, they acquire Chupa Chups. And today we're almost a $3 billion company working in 150 countries around the world. The fourth largest candy company in the world, non-chocolate, that's always the disclaimer to make there. And fortunately, the US and North America are our second largest business unit. So they have a lot of focus, a lot of faith, and a lot of ideas for us. But we hope that that's going to be continued growth for us here. Again, one of the fastest growing confectionery companies here, more than 400 employees. And when you think of being a smaller company in this region, right, you see all of the corporate names that are there, sometimes being little Perfetti feels like that, right? And lots of times people don't see this as the most proper slide, so sorry, Mayor, but I had to do it. And that's how we feel sometimes playing against the big boys, right? But that graph is the one that says it all. And I'll explain it really quickly. The blue blocks say this is what non-chocolate confectionery has grown over the last 5 years, 1 to 2% a year. The red block is what Perfetti has grown the last 5 to 6 years. And we've grown up to 10 times what the category has. It slowed down. Last year we only grew 8 times what the category did. But obviously as you get bigger, growth gets tougher. But any of those big companies would love to have that growth, and we're proud to be driving. We continue to drive innovation. A couple of fantastic products that you can see out there are Mentos Clean Breath and Airhead Gummies, which are a blast. And very, very proud of having received several awards for the way that we do business and the way that we treat our employees and make sure that their families have the right things to have in their day-to-day lives. So with that, a lot of the growth that we've had of late has been because of our supply chain, of getting our product to market. And a lot of the investment has come exactly from there. And I could bore all of you continuing to talk, or I can let somebody who really knows what she's talking about talk to you about it. So
And bore you instead.
Amber will walk you through.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a story of kind of how we got to what James had mentioned, that, you know, we have a very large new facility in the Erlanger area that we are very excited about moving into the beginning of the year, and we're fully operational out of it. So kind of walk you back to how we got here. So really, growth is a guiding principle for Perfetti, and we want to ensure that we're doing it while considering the whole brain approach. And that means is different ways of thinking, different ways of perceiving things so that everybody understands and is moving in one direction. And so we look at things from like a transformational perspective. So things that are creative, forward-thinking, change-driven. It's about the why we do things. Is it profitable? Are we using data to drive decision-making? Are we meeting our business objectives? It's about the what. And then, of course, anything you do and when you're growing and you're building, you want to make sure it's sustainable. Do we have processes in place? Are we following those processes? Do we have contingency plans? It's all about the how and the what ifs. And then meaningful, right? We have 400 employees. We want to make sure that we're taking that into consideration in the decisions we make to grow and to change our business. So it becomes about the who and the what's in it for me. We had a very complex supply chain and some system challenges. And we have 70% of our volume is imported from overseas. So that gives us 6 different international lanes that we ship to. We have over 360 different SKUs that we sell, and we have over 300 customers in our base with over 1,200 unique ship-to locations. So it's incredibly complex. We have 6 million square miles to cover of area to make deliveries to. And as James said, we enjoy a lot of growth, and we continue to see that growth coming. And when you're growing like that, you need to make sure you're investing in your supply chain and your processes and your practices. Otherwise, all that growth can start to feel like the bridge is crumbling because we've overloaded it. And going back to thinking about if we're one of the little guys, but if we want to be one of the big guys, we have to start thinking like one of the big guys. So we partnered with LeanCor, who is a third-party logistics provider here in the northern Kentucky area, to do an engineering study for us. Look at our front-to-back processes, identify where we have opportunity, and then put together a study. No cuffs, anything that makes sense based on how we ship to our customers and where our plants are coming in. And they pretty much confirmed what we pretty knew. Our complexity is one of the key drivers of our service level and our cost. We're operating in a labor market that is incredibly tight with low turnover and low unemployment rates. We had some process improvements that we needed to do on the front end to order forecasting and order management. And oh, by the way, of the 3 distribution centers we were operating out of, our largest one over in Hebron was going to run out of space by 2018. So LeanCor put together 4 different designs, and what was common in most of them is that it put a single distribution center here in the northern Kentucky area, in the Cincinnati area, and with different levels of automation or robotics within the different models. And what would have been great is, could we build on the land where our plant already exists? We've got space there, there's opportunity, and it would be amazing to have a plant with the distribution center attached to it. Unfortunately, the land was not set up ideally for us to be able to do that, so hence we wind up with Showcase, which is dubbed Showcase because it sits on the property that used to be the old Showcase Cinemas that you see off of 275 up the road here. It's a 400,000 square foot facility, and I think you might recognize some people in that picture. We did the ribbon cutting earlier this spring, so we're very excited about this facility. And what it did for us, it took us from a very complex segmented distribution model with 3 different centers, a plant, and then imports, and put us in one facility. So simplifying it, and then basically setting us up for success for at least the next 5 years at the growth plan we have. Within the facility, there's over 46,000 positions to hold cases. We have a plan to put an automated pick module in there, and then racking set up to suit and contract and expand however our business model changes over the next course of the several years. So very set up for success from a shipping perspective and a supply chain management perspective for the next several years. A little bit more detail, the mass put, which is really going to give us some ability for automation. We today use a lot of resources to do case picking. We have very small orders that do a lot of LTL, so it's very labor intensive. With the labor market being as tight as it is, we wanted to make sure we were utilizing the resources and the talent that we have in the most efficient way possible. And the beauty of this is we continue to leverage the local relationships we have here in Erlanger with Vogt Industries, who provides a lot of the staffing and management within the facility. And then for the transportation between our plant and the distribution center, we use ITDS. Again, continuing to leverage that relationship and expand what we're doing with them. So a really great story in that we're now set up for success. We're not going to see the bridge collapse, and we're really focusing on making sure that we're using people, process, and technology to gain insights and visibility to be successful. Have any questions? Yes? Which does he wear? Which way does he wear his pants? Do you know the answer?
It's always good to find the questions, right? So we wanted to give you a brief update. We're very proud of what we have done. We're very glad to be in the area that we have it. And again, we look forward to continuing the partnership and the growth. And obviously, you guys have packed agenda, but if you have any questions, we would love to entertain.
1
very much.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, and I have to brag on you guys. The ribbon cutting ceremony for Perfetti was the best we've ever seen. I mean, the Coke and Mentos geysers, you guys went above and beyond, and you made a splash, so thank you. And thanks for being here, appreciate it. All right, the next special presentation that's on our agenda for tonight is the swearing in of our firefighter and paramedic, Lindsay Lang. Chief Whitaker.
Thank you. Sweet presentation, by the way. You've never heard that one, have you? Sorry. Tonight, before I introduce you to our newest member, I wanted to touch base. The fire service works a little different than our brothers and sisters in blue as far as hiring goes. The police are blessed to have a state training academy where they can find a quality individual and send them to Richmond and then work with them when they get returned to become that police officer, that law enforcement officer. Fire department, we kind of work in reverse that way. It's up to the individuals to get their certifications, to put themselves through school, to go do all these things. We work on the opposite end of that. And tonight's case is a very good example of that. Lindsay, come on up here. This is Lindsay. She's a Dixie High School graduate and a fellow UC paramedic class graduate. She was a medic before she became a firefighter. And she was working in the EMS field, which obviously we know is so important in today's fire service industry. But with all the requirements that it's necessary, you have to have 150 hours, then you have to have 400 hours. You have to pass a physical assessment test. You have to go through all these things. And that, to me, speaks wonders when somebody has that motivation to go and do those things. And Lindsay did just that. She went and completed everything she had. We're very fortunate to be taking her from Alexandria Fire Department. I got to be careful when I see the chief out there. But she's a quality individual, and we are really thrilled to introduce her tonight. I know her family's here. Her husband, Rick, is here, recently promoted lieutenant for the City of Florence Fire Department. Houston and Silas are her boys. There's 2 dogs. They're not here, are they? Okay, they're not. They were up there on the video. How do they wear their pants? She likes to hunt and fish in her spare time, and we are really thrilled to introduce her tonight. We'll do the swearing in with her husband, and because of the situation, I'd like her husband to be pinning her after the swearing in ceremony, if that's okay. All right?
Opportunity.
There you go.
It's a great group of guys and gals to work with, and I'm honored to join the team, so thank you.
Okay. So next special presentation on the agenda is a proclamation for Extra Mile Day. This is a proclamation that we do every year. So to all to whom these presents shall come, whereas Erlanger, Kentucky is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And Erlanger, Kentucky is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And Erlanger, Kentucky is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And the City of Erlanger acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 550 Extra Mile cities in America, and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2019. Now, therefore, I, Jessica Fetty, Mayor of the City of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2019 to be Extra Mile Day. And I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to making their organizations, families, communities, country, and world a better place. With that being said, I won't go through this next proclamation in its entirety because we had the pleasure of reading the proclamation today for Officer Joel Shepard. He was recognized today at the Kenton County Alliance meeting, and his outstanding efforts with the STAND program, and he just does so much for the community. He goes above and beyond for the children at Miles Elementary and Lindeman Elementary. And, he was recognized today, and tomorrow is going to be Joel Shepard Day in the City of Erlanger. So make sure that you pat Joel on the back and give him a congratulations. Okay. Next on the agenda is the comments for those that are other than council members. There's nobody signed up? Okay. All right. Move along. Okay, Mayor's report. Just a couple of things that I want to let you guys know about. So I was invited to Washington, D.C. on Thursday, and I will be attending the Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan Regional Leadership Conference for local leaders at the White House. And I'll be representing the City of Erlanger. So it's a pretty packed agenda, talking to all different types of leaders within the President's cabinet. We're hoping for a little visit. He's not on the agenda, but you never know. I've heard he tends to pop in every once in a while. So I'll be going up there Thursday, and pretty excited about that opportunity. This week's Youth Leadership Academy, it's the third week. Our guest speaker, he's going to be our first guest speaker, and he's going to be talking about ambition. And we'll have Brent Cooper from the Northern Kentucky Chamber. So we're very excited to have him there. Just a little update on the Art in the Park event that happened last month. I've heard from many people that it was a really huge success. So we had over 300 people there in a 2-hour time frame. It was crazy. The vendors did great. Marty's Waffles, he told me, and I think this tells you so much. He made more with his food truck in a 2-hour period of time in Erlanger than he made at a 6-hour event in Lebanon, Ohio. That's telling. People were hungry. And there were people there to buy. So, I've heard that a lot from the vendors that were there. So very, very happy with the attendance, and it was a really fun event. I also want to give you guys some awesome news we have gotten for the summer send-off. So it's the Arling House Summer Send-Off, and we have secured our fireworks sponsor. and all of our parking. So Silver Lake Recreation is going to put on a whole fireworks display as the last song is playing by the last band. So we're pretty excited about that. On the dork, right? Yeah. And they're providing all the parking. So, you know, our parking concerns are eased. Yeah. October 24th, I wanted you guys, if you could, mark your calendars. The Erlanger Business Council Business Advocacy and Community Engagement meeting is here from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. It is Erlanger Government Day. So if you all pencil that in, I would love for you all to be in attendance and meet some of the amazing business leaders that come to the Erlanger Business Council on a regular basis. I'd love for them to have that interaction with you all, as well as leadership. I'll be talking about this in the leadership team meeting at some point before the 24th. So please mark your calendars. October 24th, it's a Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., and it's right here in council chambers. And that is all I have. All right, Matt, your report.
Thank you. I only have one thing on to report. Our meeting with Sal Santoro and Adam Koenig went really well after our last committee meeting, or council meeting last month in regards to Stevenson Road, to the point where during that meeting we were invited down to Frankfurt to discuss, to be able to talk to the committee down there, the transportation committee down there. So we've got that scheduled for next week. So we'll be, myself, the mayor, and select staff will be down there kind of pitching our idea. We've got some other things to go along with that. We're also going to be discussing Houston Road, possibly Commonwealth. And so yeah, it should be a good meeting down there, and hopefully have something good to report for next month. Pending anyone's questions, that's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Gatlin.
Just a few things, Mayor. We have quite a bit of legislation on tonight. We have second reading of a couple KBI incentives. We do have a municipal order for the NKREA interlocal agreement. We just had a municipal order, I think, last meeting because they were appointing some new board members. Well, this time we have to do it because they're adding some new cities. There's 3 new cities that have joined the Northern Kentucky Regional Ethics Association, so all the cities now have to re-sign that interlocal agreement. We have a resolution for the wireline franchise agreement. This was spoken about as at the last committee meeting. This is just a resolution to allow for bids based on the criteria that we discussed. We have a resolution having Mr. Hahn apply to the Kenton County Planning Commission to do a study on text amendments for outdoor seating and home occupation. The language of those are a part of that resolution. And then finally, we have a resolution as it relates to the Al Nair Development Agreement. This is a modification to the current development agreement with Al Nair that allows for what I would call an option on the adjoining property. There was some questions by email to me related to whether we needed to surplus that, and we kind of are tonight, but it's not through a normal surplus process. Pursuant to KRS 82.083, subsection 3B, a city can sell at a discount or even outright give away property such as this for economic development purposes. And if you read the development agreement, you can see that there'll have to be significant job creations and significant economic improvement to the city prior to some of those triggers happening. The final thing I have is about a month ago we filed foreclosures on both 4210 Dixie Highway and on 301 Centerstone. And we are happy today to present, or just to state, that on 4210 Dixie Highway, they actually came in, was it today, Dave? This week? Yesterday? And they paid half the fines off, which this was never about fines. We've entered into a payment arrangement with them for the rest of the fines. But the more important thing is they've cleaned up the property pretty extensively. They're looking to put a new tenant in the property. And we will continue to leave that lawsuit open until we are completely satisfied after a full inspection of the property and until they've clean or paid the rest of the fines. So rarely in the foreclosure world do you get results that quickly, and it seems like it was actually the bank, when they got notice of this foreclosure, kind of got after the owner, and that maybe is what's motivated things here a little bit. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Mr. Glenn?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I want to start off this evening by talking about the leaf collection schedule that I put on everybody's desk. So that's coming up, starting October 21st, going through November, and then completing in the first week of December. So if you open it up, you'll see everything is alphabetical. So if you have the name of your street or whatever street you're interested in, it's alphabetically, and then listed out the 4 dates that we'll be picking up leaves on. Also within that is a pamphlet that we pass out to any resident that if we can't get to them or we need to come back, it's a door hanger that we put on. This year's pamphlet was done by Kevin Quinn. I think it's an excellent job, so congratulations, Kevin. Appreciate all the good work. Capital project-wise, we're completing the design of the Silver Lake Phase 2 street improvement project. So that's going to be street replacement from the intersection of Riggs and Silver Lake down to Phase 1, which is just west of Churchill. So that's going to be a complete pavement replacement, and we'll have a bid opening date of the 28th of October. So come November, council meeting will come for approval for the bids on that project. We held a public workshop for all the residents being affected on that project on the 27th of September. And it was an opportunity for everybody to come and give us their input on the drawings and see how this project was going to affect them. Ongoing projects that we have going on is Wood Chase, Summerwood, and Heartwood. That's JPS Construction, and they've been working out there for a few weeks now. So they're on Wood Chase and Summerwood doing sidewalk replacement. This is going to be a complete sidewalk replacement project and a complete pavement replacement project. And they'll work throughout the remainder of this fall, probably terminating right around Thanksgiving, and then completing the project in the spring. So work out there is ongoing, and we had a public workshop as well on that project July 25th, and we held that workshop out on site. Had a lot of great turnout for that, and got a lot of good input, and I think a lot of residents were really worried about the complexity of that project and how they're going to park and how it was going to affect them. So we actually went out on site and did the workshop out there, and it had a great result. Circle Port, Turfway Road, which way you would like to call that project. Another complete pavement replacement project, and that's TMS Construction. And they started about a week ago on that, and that is going to be complete pavement replacement, and with a new sidewalk on the north side of the road, new bus shelter and a retaining wall, and then a little path connection down to Dulwich, where we'll have a grant project that will be starting in the next couple of years, finishing up a sidewalk connection there in Dulwich. Didn't have a public workshop, but Dave Hahn and Public Works have been in constant communication with Corporate X on what we're doing, how we're doing it, when we're doing it. For those who don't know, the Riggs Road beautification has started. So all those 16 beautiful steel poles that were put up, we now have 11 of them with nice landscaping beds around it. We had a volunteer group come work with Public Works. That was BLS, which is Bottom Line Solutions, which is a medical billing company out of Crescent Springs. They sent over 27 or 28 volunteers. I know, it was awesome. They said they were going to come with 27, and they brought 27. It's the first time I've ever seen that. So that was excellent. And it was so hot, and the ground was so hard, but they worked really hard, and they've got 11 of the 16 done, which is what we had planned on doing that day. So if you go out there now, you'll see kind of as the plan starts to develop what we're going to be doing. There's still 5 more to do, And Duke Energy is going to bring a volunteer group on the 24th of October, and we're going to finish it out with their volunteer group. So with a lot of good help from Public Works. And then the last thing I want to talk about is park master planning. So this budget year, we're master planning Silver Lake, Rainbow, and Misty Creek parks. So first thing, we've contracted Jim Viux's firm to do the master planning of Rainbow and Silver Lake, and they put together a real nice park survey that you can find on our city webpage. So it's kind of a general, the beginning half of the survey is a general questionnaire as far as where do you live, what parks do you visit, what kind of things would you like generally to see in the city of Erlanger, followed up by the second half being park specific to Silver Lake, to Rainbow, and to Misty Creek, to just ask some specific questions to see what people would like to see in those parks. So if you wouldn't mind, get on the webpage and take the survey. So we've had 3 public workshops as well, where we've had maybe a couple hundred people come out and give us input. And we started with Silver Lake September 17th, and we had a lot of good turnout from area residents on that, along with the ownership group of everything from Silver Lake Recreation, and that was really nice. The next master plan meeting we had was during the Art in the Park. That's why our numbers are so high, because we had hundreds of people attend that, and literally almost everybody stopped by our booth and gave us a lot of great input, and we were really kind of swamped for the whole time the Art in the Park went on. But people really are just excited to see things happening, whether they had input or not, or knew what they really wanted. They just love to meet with the city people, to kind of see that we care about what they have, and to gather their input. So we got a lot of great input from that one. And then today we had our last public workshop at Rainbow, which just finished at 6 o'clock this evening. So, and again, we had a lot of residents come out. It was 3 hours long, and and it was actually a nice steady string throughout the 3 hours. And again, it was a lot of things. People want a lot of things that we already kind of know, but you just kind of want to solidify it, and confirm it with them. And again, they're just really happy to have input, and to hear that we're moving forward and doing something in their parks. And that's all I have. Any questions? All right, great. Thank you.
I didn't have a question, but I wanted to make a comment. Mr. Glenn, I think you did a great job at the Art in the Park, getting that information from people. Setting up that tent and having the boards with images, like idea boards and things like that, and having the survey ready at hand, and having your whole team there, and everybody was dressed the same and looked like a team. I mean, it got a lot of attention from people. I mean, I thought you did a great job. It was nice to see. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I have to say, this word that you put everywhere, exceptional. You show this every day, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Your whole team, it raises the bar, and I greatly appreciate it. The work that you guys put in to Art in the Park, to make that a success, to make it beautiful, taking the plants that you were going to plant at Riggs and decorating the road and the entryway, it's phenomenal. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. The signs, your whole team, Joe, Kevin, you guys, Dale, really good job. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is the reports of the task forces. Do we have anybody that would like to give a report? Yes, Renee. It doesn't, but if this is where you would like to plug it in, I'm all for it, Renee. Go for it, girl.
All right. Kenton County Alliance met today, and there was approximately 45 people in attendance, because I counted 3 times and got 3 different numbers, so approximately 45. Today was the annual meeting of the KCA. We met at the Edgewood Senior Center for our lunch and recognitions. Officer Nottingham and Officer Shepard were recognized for their work and commitment to the STAND program. Renee Skidmore read a recognition certificate to Officers Nottingham and Shepard, provided by Adam Koenig, House of Representatives. Marty Lenhoff, Mayor of Ellesmere, read a proclamation declaring today as Scott Nottingham Day in Ellesmere. Mayor Jessica Fetty read a proclamation declaring October 2nd as Officer Joel Shepard Day in Erlanger. Notes and announcements. Erlanger Ellesmere School System received a $5 million grant to be spread out over 5 years. Vicki Dansbury read over the results of the KIP testing. One of the conclusions was that students are not getting their alcohol from stores, so to a certain degree, sticker shock has been effective. And there were 18 categories of questions in this study, and this is that report. If anybody wants to see it, see Sherry. End of report.
All right, thank you, Renee. Ms. Kyle?
Yes, we would like to share some of the exciting things that are happening in the police department, if you don't mind. First of all, our road units and detectives investigated a drive-by shooting over at Greenfield on September 14th. And then ECAT served a search warrant on Stevenson and arrested subjects for trafficking drugs. Another great thing, public social worker Strauss assisted 2 elderly couples who were homeless find housing. One couple had custody of their 3- and 5-year-old grandchildren. That's awesome. And officers are participating in drivers training education in September and October. And then the EPD hosted a recognition luncheon for the retired officers on September 24th, and that was a first, and it was awesome. It was so great to see all those retired officers. Patty and I really enjoyed it. And the other thing that they did that I think is awesome is they held an iced coffee with a cop event, and this was at Dunkin' Donuts, and they had a dunking booth, and all the proceeds went to the Childhood Cancer Fund. So we just wanted to give them some kudos, and I think Patty wanted to make a few more announcements.
Thank you. You all have heard and seen all across Facebook this crackdown on traffic on the expressway. Erlanger officers wrote 50 citations today alone. Isn't that amazing?
What's the average cost of a citation?
Who knows? I mean, at least the people are not getting killed. Yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. Also, CRO Rice has started a Citizens Police Academy class, which is awesome. I went through that twice, not because I failed, because it was awesome. CRO Rice and Becky Strauss, Clerk Hucker, and TAC Officer Brown worked at the table at the Erlanger Ellesmere Schools Community Block event, and they worked their butts off. They did little IDs for the kids and with their pictures, and they did over 80 of those for the children to take home with them, which is just incredible. That was just a beautiful, beautifully held event. I mean, the children, you could just see the love and respect in their eyes when they looked at their teachers and staff. I mean, you could tell those children were loved, and they knew it too. It was just so neat. I wanted to let you all know that our assistant police chief, Kyle Rader, is going to the FBI Academy on Monday, which is a big, big opportunity. Chad Girdler is on the list, so hopefully he'll get to go next year. But it's a 10-week period, so it's a big deal for these guys. And they're well-trained when they come back, and I don't think that anybody would say any less of any of our officers that have been through that training. It's just amazing. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Hoffman, do we have any correspondence?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mrs. Hoffman, do we have any bids?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, do we have any unfinished business to discuss? Okay. And for new business, do we have any new business to discuss? See, council pay structure is listed here, and I don't. So,
I had something I'd like to ask that we add to the committee meeting. That actually was not that. But I think that's what the whole purpose was, to talk about that, the council pay structure at the next committee meeting. The thing that I would like to ask that we also discuss is murals. And, because right now, our current ordinance, as it's written, murals are treated like signage. And I think we need to differentiate that in our current ordinance.
okay, so those two items will be added to the committee meeting. All right, any other new business? Okay, let's get started with legislation.
I've been texted by several of you to really talk slow tonight as we go through these. I'm kidding. First is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger, Kentucky, providing for a credit of its occupational license fee for new employees as part of an economic development project by ABB Concise Optical Group, LLC, under the Kentucky Business Investment Program, KRS 154.32, subsection 10 through KRS 154.32, subsection 100. This first one is a 0.5% credit to the City of Erlanger occupational license fees on new Kentucky resident jobs, and the 0.5% credit of its occupational license fee will be for a period of 10 years. This is a local credit, will cause a 1.5% Kentucky personal income tax credit on such new jobs under KBI, and thus a total 2% credit. This is a second reading.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance as read? Mrs. Sedkamp, Mr. Burke? Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely? Ms. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Reckers?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hermes?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sedkamp?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, motion carried.
Next is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger, Kentucky, providing for a credit of its occupational license fee for new employees as part of an economic development project by CCBCC Operations, LLC, under the Kentucky Business Investment Program, KRS 154.32, subsection 10 through KRS 154.32, subsection 100. This is for a $12.4 million expansion, 303 full-time Kentucky jobs. This is a 1% credit to the Erlanger occupational license fee for a 10-year period, and providing a local credit of 3% for Kentucky personal income tax credits on such new jobs under the KBI for a total of 4% credit. This also is a second reading.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance as read? Mrs. Kyle, Mrs. Sedkamp? Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Ms. Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore? Mr. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sedkamp? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hermes?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Reckers?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely? Mr. Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, motion carried.
Next is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving an interlocal agreement for the enforcement of the Erlanger Code of Ethics by a joint board. As discussed earlier, this is merely us entering into a new interlocal agreement with 20 cities that are on the second page. The reason we're doing this is because of the addition of 3 cities, and I don't know which 3. I know one of the 3 because I represent one of the 3, but I don't know the other 2 that came on board. Bromley, Dry Ridge, and...
There's only 2 I know.
Is that all, Bromley and Dry Ridge? This is municipal order.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Mrs. Kyle, Mrs. Reckers. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Tyson. All right. Okay. Wireline franchise agreement.
This is a resolution for the City of Erlanger, Kentucky, creating and establishing for bid a non-exclusive telecommunications franchise for the placement of wired telecommunications facilities, providing for the transmission, distribution, and sale of telecommunications services within the public right-of-way of the City of Erlanger, Kentucky for no more than a 20-year duration, imposing a franchise fee in the sum of 1 3/10% of franchisees' gross receipts per year arising from franchisees' sale of telecommunications services to customers or subscribers inside the corporate limits of the City of Erlanger, and 2, lease or contract of usage of franchisees' telecommunications system or facilities, reserving the right to increase the stated franchise fee up to 5% of franchisees' gross receipts, and further providing for compliance with relevant laws, regulations, and standards, usage limitations, indemnification, insurance, cancellation, or termination, and such other terms and conditions contained in the attached wired telecommunications franchise agreement and bid requirements, all effective on the date of passage. This is a resolution that would require a vote. Sorry.
Do I entertain a motion that we adopt this resolution as read? Mrs. Kyle, Mr. Hermes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next is a resolution sponsoring the proposed text amendments to both Section 9.11 home occupations and creating a Section 9.36 outdoor seating regulations, the Erlanger zoning ordinance. This merely is just allowing Mr. Hahn to sponsor and direct PDS to study and the Kenton County Planning Commission to conduct a public hearing on the proposed text amendments. You can see the sections that are being proposed added at Section 9.11, which make some changes to governing home occupations, and then Section 9.36, which creates outdoor seating regulations. On the outdoor seating regulations, those are only affecting the zones 10.14 through 10.20 and Section 10.25, which are our commercial zones.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this resolution as read? Mr. Hermes, Mr. Meyer, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Finally, we have a resolution of the City of Erlanger, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor of the city to execute a development agreement with Elnair LLC related to development of the Atlas Air Project. As previously discussed, the development agreement is attached, and it provides some different opportunities for the city to sell, or obligations, I should say, for the city to sell the land it owns adjacent to where Atlas Air is locating at different price points depending on when they trigger that option, and pursuant to KRS 82.083 subsection 3, the city can go ahead and sell this at either a significant reduced amount for economic development purposes.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this resolution as read? Mrs. Pitts, Mrs. Reckers, any discussion?
I have just a comment, Mrs. Mayor. I know I've got a number of things that were answered for me on this. There's just a few things that I didn't like about this development agreement. I don't like, I'm not a fan of how restricted it leaves us without the opportunity to get out should there be some things that don't go away with that, along with the growth plans that they're expecting. So, and then I don't like how it's restricted. So we could potentially just have nobody develop on the lot for 15 years if they don't hit their thresholds. So I wish there were a few more outs that were developed into this agreement, but I know that it's kind of late at this point. But
yeah, I understand your concerns. We've discussed them. This was a aggressively negotiated document. like anything, there's good and bad in it.
Yeah, I just think the city's giving a little too much away of potential, so nothing further.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. Okay. Are there any announcements this evening?
One little quick comment for anyone who is either not registered to vote or needs to have any voter registration changes. There is a statewide election and a special election that will affect Erlanger 11 and 12 for the state representative seat. And the deadline to do any changes or register is 10/7, which is next Monday. So just throwing that out there. And you can go to kentoncountykclerk.com to make those changes or register to vote.
Very good. Anything else? Alrighty. Do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Mr. Hermes and Mrs. Kyle. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have a good night.